After the ceremony, people approached me, some to comfort me, others just to gossip. I felt like I was moving in slow motion. Outside the church, Vivian was standing alone, tears streaking her makeup. When she saw me, she straightened her shoulders. "You think you've won, don't you?" she hissed. "You think that money makes you his real son?" I looked at her, exhausted. "No," I said quietly. "I think his love already proved it." She scoffed, turned, and stormed off to her car. Days later, she filed a legal complaint to challenge the will. She claimed my father had been manipulated, that I had pressured him. But the court dismissed her petition almost instantly. The documents were airtight, signed, witnessed, and backed by medical records showing my father was of sound mind. And when she tried to demand another DNA test, the court revealed something I didn't even know. My father had already done one privately, years ago. It was part of the will's confidential appendix. The results confirmed I was his biological son. When Vivian saw those papers, she broke down in court. I didn't feel satisfaction, just a deep, quiet sadness. After everything, I inherited the business and the family house. Lily stayed with her mother for a while, but later moved to another city for college. We still talk sometimes. She's the only one who apologized. A month after the case closed, Ms. Harper called me to her office. She handed me an envelope with my name written in my father's handwriting. My heart stopped when I saw it. Inside was a single letter. "My son, if you're reading this, it means the world finally knows what I always did. That you are mine. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. I raised you. I loved you. I watched you grow into a man I'm proud to call my son. Some people live for money. Others live for control. But I hope you live for truth and kindness. Remember that family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shares your heart. Love, Dad." I sat there in silence, tears running down my face, the lawyer quietly giving me time. For the first time since the funeral, I felt peace. That night I went to his grave. I brought a small cup of his favorite black coffee, placed it on the stone, and sat beside it. "You were right," I said softly. "She tried to take everything, but you were still protecting me." The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment I swear I could almost hear his laugh. The same deep, warm sound that used to echo through our house. Vivian sold the vacation house and moved away. I don't know where she went, and honestly, I don't care. I don't hate her anymore. I just pity her. She spent her whole life trying to claim something that was never hers. Not the house, not the money, not even the love. Lily sends me messages sometimes. She says her mom doesn't talk about what happened. She also says she's proud of how I handled it. That means more to me than anything else. In time, the scandal faded. The whispers stopped. Life slowly went back to normal, but I was never the same. I'd seen what greed could do, how it could turn a funeral into a battlefield, a family into enemies. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that moment. Standing in front of my father's coffin, hearing Vivian's voice cut through the silence. I can still feel the sting of those words, but they don't hurt anymore. Because I know the truth. And the truth doesn't need defending. It defends itself. People say death reveals the real faces of the living. They're right. At my father's funeral, masks fell off. Lies collapsed. And in the end, the one thing that survived was love. Quiet, steady, unshakable love. So when people ask what happened that day, I just tell them this. My stepmother tried to erase me with one sentence, but my father had already written the ending long before she opened her mouth. She tried to take away my identity, but he made sure, even from the grave, that no one could ever steal what mattered most. And when the lawyer spoke those words, "Ethan is his son," I didn't just hear legal truth. I heard my father's voice. I heard love. And that's why I'll never forget the day my stepmother announced I wasn't my father's son. Because that was the day the truth finally shouted louder than the lies. The chapel smelled of lilies and old wood polish. My father's coffin rested at the front, surrounded by white flowers and photographs of him smiling. The same smile that had carried me through my childhood. I stood beside it, numb. It felt unreal. like I was watching my own life from a distance. My stepmother, Vivian, was dressed perfectly in black, her hair pinned back tight, not a single tear on her face. My stepsister, Lily, sat beside her, silently sobbing into a tissue. The priest's voice echoed softly through the hall, offering words of comfort that I couldn't feel. I was trying to hold it together, my throat burning as I fought the urge to cry. But just as the priest finished his final prayer, Vivian moved. She stood up slowly, her heels clicking on the marble floor. The sound echoed in the quiet room like thunder. "I have something to say," she began. At first, I thought she was going to talk about Dad, maybe share a story or a kind memory. But her tone wasn't gentle. It was sharp, cold, rehearsed. "Before we end," she said, "I think everyone deserves to know the truth. Ethan," she looked directly at me, her eyes hard, "is not George's real son." For a second, I thought I misheard her. Then the murmurs started. My father's old friends turned their heads. My aunt gasped. Someone in the back whispered, "What did she just say?" Vivian kept going, her voice rising, trembling not with grief but with anger. "He's not George's biological child. George just raised him out of pity after his first wife's mistake." I froze. My body went cold, my hands shaking. My mind raced through every memory I had of my father. Every hug, every laugh, every time he said, "I'm proud of you." Were they all lies? I couldn't speak. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. Then, from the front pew, a calm female voice broke through the noise. "Mrs. Vivian," it said firmly, "that's a very serious claim." It was Ms. Harper, my father's lawyer. She was a middle-aged woman with gray streaks in her hair and eyes that could silence a courtroom. She stood, holding a dark folder in her hands. "You're making this statement publicly," she continued, "at a funeral, without proof. Do you understand what that means?" Vivian looked caught off guard, but quickly straightened. "I don't need proof. Everyone can see it. He doesn't look like George. He never has. I'm only saying what George never could." Ms. Harper nodded slowly, her face expressionless. Then she opened her folder. "In that case," she said, "it's time everyone hears what George actually said." The entire room fell silent. Even the priest stepped back. "This," Ms. Harper announced, holding up a document, "is George's last will and testament, signed 6 months ago and witnessed by both myself and Mrs. Vivian." Vivian's head snapped toward her, startled. "In this will," the lawyer continued, "George refers to Ethan as, quote, 'my beloved son, both by blood and by heart.' He names Ethan as the primary heir to the family business and the main beneficiary of the estate." The crowd gasped. My knees nearly buckled. Ms. Harper walked slowly toward the podium, her voice steady. "If anyone believed Ethan wasn't George's son, the time to contest that claim was 6 months ago. Not today, not at his funeral." Vivian's face flushed red. "He didn't tell me about any new will," she snapped. "He must have been manipulated. He wasn't thinking straight before he died." The lawyer didn't even blink. "Actually," she said, "he was perfectly sound of mind. And just 2 days before his death, he added this." She unfolded a small, cream-colored paper. A final codicil, handwritten and notarized. She began to read. "To my family, and especially to those who may one day question it. Ethan is my son. Anyone who dares to deny it publicly or privately forfeits their right to my estate. Truth is not decided by rumor, but by love and proof." The air in the room changed. You could feel everyone's eyes on Vivian. She looked frozen, her mouth open, her confidence gone. Ms. Harper lowered the paper. "So, Mrs. Vivian, by your own words just now, you forfeited your claim. And for everyone here, let it be known, Ethan is not just legally George's son. He is his son." There was a long silence before the murmuring began again, this time directed at Vivian. People were shaking their heads, whispering angrily. Vivian looked around, panicked. "You can't do this. I was his wife. I took care of him." Ms. Harper replied quietly, "You were his wife. But you just publicly disrespected his memory. That's not love, Mrs. Vivian. That's greed. I couldn't take my eyes off her. My heart was pounding, my body shaking, from shock, from anger, from relief. I turned to look at my father's coffin, my throat tight. "You knew," I whispered under my breath. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?"